Hey guys, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Lo, and welcome to another episode of Try Saying That Out Loud, a podcast where we talk in painful detail about, and I quote, white girl shit.
It's our lives and our truths, unscripted and uncensored.
Did you like that?
Yeah, that's not in there.
Not in there. I wanted to see your reaction. And you handled
good.
it very much in stride.
It was good. I liked it. Sorry, kids. It was good.
It literally came to me, I think. I woke up.
Wait, can you say it again?
Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Try Saying That Out Loud, a podcast where we talk in painful detail about, and I quote, white girl shit.
Yeah, that's really good. You just heard some on-air moments of genius.
I think I woke up randomly at 5 a.m. I don't know why. It came to me in like a moment of genius. I didn't even write it down, so like props to my fighting my brain fog because I just like remembered it.
It's really good.
I mean,
impressed.
Is it the most true? Like,
yeah, every time.
Whether or not it's consequential or not, which is like our other,
it's always white girl shit.
It's always, and painfully so. Where we're like, why do we keep talking about this white girl shit? Because it's just, hey.
We're very white.
Very white. Yep.
Okay, well, let's start with some batch. And I know it's old, so we'll like do just a brief final thoughts on the season. I'm so fucking glad this season is over. Like,
I know, and it's so funny because I think you introduced me to that Bachelor Party podcast, and I couldn't articulate exactly why this season like sucked so much or why I felt like zero connection. It really was like the weirdest. Like, I didn't feel like anyone had a legit connection.
Right.
I just felt like it was so, and I don't know why. It's like they had the same amount of time. Like, I normally by the end of it, I'm like, ooh, I'm really rooting for this person.
Well, first of all, we normally know so much more about the lead, and this just goes to show, and to no fault of Matt, but like it just goes to show that they need to be pulling people from the system, whatever. Like, they already need to have been on a show, so they're not brand new, and people like kind of know a little bit about them.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, but then if we kind of continue to do that without a Matt James season, then we would have literally only white people to choose from. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, like Matt, I feel like his season was a necessary evil for many reasons.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel
well,
so
it was also a nasty season. It was the meanest season I've ever seen.
So many catty, here's the thing. And we'll talk about Temptation Island later. But don't you just like a part of the reason I love Temptation Island is this, you're putting, especially for the women, you're putting 4 women together who are going through the weirdest experience together. And it just brings out this like camaraderie. There's zero.
Oh yeah. They're a fucking team.
They're a team and they support each other and they're like, and I don't know what it is. There's like
it's been on all 3 seasons.
And there's no competition. They're essentially, not. I guess the men are more so competing for them, but it's not
right.
It's more
they're
women
fighting over the men in the house.
Yes, and it's just kind of like I wish the Bachelor franchises had the same vibe. And here's the thing: you watch like a Bachelorette season, and I feel like the men are far more friendly than the women.
Oh my god, Glacia's season, they are BFFs.
It's the most adorable thing.
Bennett, Ed, and Dale apparently hang out all the fucking time.
Yeah, and the women, I guess, in Matt James's season, there is a cohort of them that do. Like, you'll see, like, Chelsea Vaughn with all of her, whatever the fuck they're doing in New York, getting COVID.
But at least there's a ton of people that aren't friends, though. Maybe it was Bachelor Data that pointed out, like, normally you have most of the girls following each other to the extent that they knew them. Like, obviously the first night girls, you don't speak to them. But in this season, there's a lot of like people not following each other on Instagram, which is like says something in this day and age. If you're like, no, I spent however many weeks with you and I still don't like you. Like,
and that's the thing. It's like, that's why I love Temptation Island and why Bachelor annoys me is because it's like, okay, honeys, you guys literally have met him for 5 minutes. Why is everyone fighting? Like, it's not. So just like trust, he's going to make whatever the fuck decision he wants to make. Just be you and like, just be I don't know. Like, isn't it kind of not that people should go on The Bachelor to like find friends, but like.
But most of them, that's all they're getting out of it.
But most of them. So I don't know. Anyway, here's the thing too. I'm not excited for Katie at all.
Same. So
Why'd they choose her? Like there were so many other choices.
This is my Bachelorette. I'm glad we're going this way. Here is my Bachelorette 2 cents. They jumped on Katie because she was an early fan favorite.
Was she? I found her kind of.
So she came in with the dildo and everyone was like, the fuck is this? And then as like the bullying started and she was bullying Sarah and then came out and was like, actually guys, like this is what happened. We need to not be, tearing people apart. And she became this like anti-bullying advocate by like doing the least. Like everyone else was being psycho and she was at the fucking bottom line of what needed to be done. And everyone was like, oh my God, Katie. So people fucking loved her because she was like sex positive and anti-bullying, which like you should just be.
I don't think she's that. Okay, here's a really unpopular thing. People are saying, yeah, she was sex positive. I'm like, just because she brought a dildo, like everyone tries to do something gimmicky on The Bachelor. Does that mean that she's truly sex positive? Does she seem like someone who's like
I don't follow her. She has like a podcast. She has like a whole shtick.
She does. Okay. Uh-huh. Is it from The Bachelor though? Because she did the shtick and then it became the shtick? Do you know what I mean? Like, what is it? I guess, is it truly authentic?
I think that if I remember correctly, the podcast was pre-Bachelor, but that could be wrong. I don't know.
In any event,
so that's what they did.
She's like a little like murder syndrome-y, where I'm like,
oh, martyr. I thought you said murder, and I was
no. I guess in murder isn't the right word because it's not like she was implicated in much of anything, but she like definitely like for some reason, I mean, I stand for everything she was standing up against, but I think what rubbed me the wrong way is just what you said. It was like she's just being a fucking human and how everyone should act. And the bar is just so low on these shows. Except it's also like she got fucking really involved. And
like chill, do less.
Right. Like also there were plenty of people like was Brie engaging in it. And I feel like Brie I highly respect. And like, so like there's a moment in time where it's like, you're doing too much, honey. Like you're trying to prove a point and you're doing a little too much. Right. And it's not authentic anymore. And that's kind of how I feel about her.
Well, so they picked her. And then as like more shit was like happening, they like just added Michelle. Like that was clearly not like a planned thing. And the reason Michelle isn't going first is because she wants to like continue her job as a teacher and she can film in the summer for them to air in the fall. But like Michelle was clearly just like an add-on. Like you could have just had Michelle be the Bachelorette.
I feel like, I mean, whatever. She has more personality to me than Katie does. So
much more. She's funny. Every time you saw an
outtake
we
did not see, I know, but which we didn't really see until after the final rose when she was trying to give Matt shit about like kissing with his eyes open. But yeah, I don't know why the producers did. There needs to be an entire Bachelor shakeup because this could be such better television.
That's what Rachel Lindsay said.
Like it is not. It's honestly not that good television. Honestly, I watch it because of Bachelor in Paradise.
So I thought after the final rose was all kinds of uncomfortable for so many reasons.
Yes.
I thought Emmanuel Acho did well for what he had. He like did not have a lot to work with. Exactly.
Can we pause for a second? Because apparently the actual, like we only saw a third of potentially what that whole thing was. People say it's like 3 hours. Some people 3 hours. Like up to sit like people like that, but I think it's like closer to 3 hours of that amount of silence.
And there were good conversations that we didn't get to hear. Brie was on there, totally caught her. Right. And a conversation between Rachel and Michelle, like basically reconciling. I would have loved to see that. Right. So I think he did fine for what he had. If I'm being honest, he seemed a little bit out of his element. Whereas like if you watch him on his channel, like
his stage presence translated weird to that stage.
Yes, I think that's
it was like too like he's got his voice is kind of like broadcastery voice. So it kind of felt a little bit not forced because that's like who he is, but in that setting, it
didn't like sound natural because it wasn't.
Right.
So there were a lot of people that thought he was great. There was some people that were like kind of like me where I was like, meh. And then there were people, from what I've heard, some Black people thought he did terrible. Well, was not good, I guess is better. Just because of the way that he catered to Rachel and they felt like that he was harder on Matt than he was on Rachel.
Here's the thing, and this is my, we'll probably talk about this. I don't have a specific comment on that. I will say Alex did not like watching Matt in that scenario. And he couldn't articulate it. And at first I was kind of pushing back on him because I was like, oh, what do you expect him to just like bend over backwards for Rachel? Like what? But then I sat with it. And here's what I think my issue was with the entire thing is, well, and it's not an issue. It's just a fact. This exposed the inauthenticity of Bachelor love
Yes.
in the most glaring way. Because
Yes.
here's the thing. And I think this is maybe why Emmanuel, was a little bit harder on Matt, right? Because you're standing here and you're saying you want this woman to be your wife. You want to have kids
Literally.
with each other. And then you're like, no, hard no, right? And it's like the equivalent of like, obviously what Rachel did was very wrong. I thought Rachel, when she said, like Emmanuel asked her like what she was doing. And I think her response of like, I'm not going to list it, which some people attacked.
Yeah.
As a white woman.
That's probably what I would have said too.
What am I going to fucking say that's going to make you think I'm doing the right thing?
I read your book.
Yeah, someone's going to attack that I read a book. Someone's going to, you know what I mean? And it's like, and I don't need to be broadcasting that. I just need to fucking do the work and like put my head down. So I actually, and I don't know if that's a popular or unpopular opinion. I haven't like followed up, but I just, yeah, Rachel's sitting here and she has nothing to, like, I can't fucking say anything. I'm just like so in the wrong. And I know that. And Matt was very like, and his silence at times I was like, okay,
we get it. He's being silent.
We get it. And we get that you're hurt, 100% that you're hurt.
Right.
If you're this hurt by someone, then I get it. That means you really fucking loved them and they did something very personal to you. But I couldn't then in my head also be like, yeah, but if you really love someone this much and it was a past mistake, a past wrongdoing, that you wanted to help see, you know what, like at least leave the door open a crack, right? I don't know. Or like, if you're like, fuck you, don't need you, then like stop the silences because you don't give a fuck.
Right. That was the conversation Ben and I had too. Yeah. And like, I was initially pushing back on it because I was like, he's allowed to be upset about this, which like
100.
Obviously he is.
Yes.
And Ben just kept saying like, this was 3 years ago. Would you not date me if you found out something that I did 3 years ago? And I was like, I don't know. Depends on what it was. And like, we couldn't come up with something that was the equivalent because like cheating is a totally different thing, right? It's something that you're doing to them, not like just an action that relates to them or offends them.
Right.
So
and it's different. I mean, I get that it's generational. I understand Matt saying like, clearly you don't know me then, right? Like you don't understand a very deep part of me. Here's my problem with that. You are a black man with a white mother. You should have been having these fucking conversations with your white contestants. Like what? Like talk about, like it's just as much.
You have so much time during your fantasy, whatever the last date is.
And if something like what she's done in her past is going to upset you so much, like obviously it should have been top of mind for you to like, who knows? Everyone has inherent biases. Like you should have asked, have you dated a black person? I don't know. Like it seemed like, I just felt like he cared so much. And I really feel for him and I really wish him the best. And I can never understand the trauma or like how that feels at all. And like feeling like you've gone through this process and someone allegedly quote unquote knows you really well. Right. And then the realization of like, oh, they don't really understand a deep part of me. But at the same time, I'm like, it was like,
so why didn't you talk about it?
Why didn't you talk about it? It was a 6-week fucking process. Like if you're really like, fuck off, I don't want to be with you, then A, you didn't mean what you said at the end. And, or B, like you just, and okay, so maybe you realize I didn't really mean it and she kind of fucked up and I never want to see her again. So be then talk about it. Like,
right. If you did mean it, then like, right. That was Ben's thing. He was like, if I love someone that much and I'm telling you, I want this person to be my wife and I want them to be the mother of my children, like even an egregious mistake, like there are people that go to therapy and like work through being cheated on, which like, so some people may argue that that's a worse thing, especially comparing to like a past mistake. So Ben's point was like, when you say that marriage, when you say I want to be with this person for the rest of my life, like how easy do you give up? And like, granted, this is a really hard situation, but to your point, like, why was this news to anybody?
Yeah, and I don't. So I wish he would have, if he really did not want Rachel in his life anymore, I wish he would have just, and I can't be in his emotions, and he can have his fucking anger, have his sadness, have whatever it is. But I guess if I thought about myself in his position, if I felt that way and was so hurt and like disgusted by someone and didn't want them in my life at all, I probably would have just been like,
Yeah, no, I'm done.
less, yeah, or like, okay, yo, do you? I'm not fucking
Right. And
with
he
it.
was like clearly broken on the
He was like
stage.
very, and like and it wasn't about like him being silent. It was just like all the time. Like he couldn't speak like that.
No. He
Like,
was clearly so exhausted. But yeah, I agree with you. And like his silence was a lot and it said a lot, but like no one needs to see 3 minutes of silence on national television.
right. Like yeah. And I can't, and again, I just like it. Not that I'm like that frustrated by it, but I'm like, okay, Bachelor, like this just proves that like love isn't really that real. Like, let's just.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Like this process doesn't work if like your first thing, you're like, deuces, I'm out.
Right. And you're like, and I get that it also wasn't that long ago. It's like 3 years, 2018. So I get it. I get it. It just was like, it exposed all of those things.
Right. And I can't, like, clearly not perfect. I did a lot of fucking shit in high school and college, but I can't think of anything that like, I'm like thinking about my past, thinking about like pictures that I have. Like I can't think of anything that would be like that. But like, I was a fucking garbage human being when I was 20. Like,
yeah.
Like the difference between me now and me when I was 20
Yeah.
is a lot. Like I wasn't like, I had friends. I wasn't like an unpleasant person to be around, but I was like very self-absorbed. Like as 20-year-olds in college
and
are.
No, not at all self-aware about like the implications of your actions. And yeah, I mean, it's
no. And so that like, if you told me that, like someone went and found a picture of me and you were like, this is you, isn't it? Like, I would be like, yeah, like it wouldn't, not that it wouldn't surprise me, but like, I feel like when you're that young and you're in college, it's just not on your fucking radar.
Yeah.
Like she was what, 19 in the picture?
Right.
18?
Which is not right. And everyone listening, that is not what we're fucking saying. We're just like, I don't know. I just once again come back to like, okay, Matt, he should have
they should have talked about it.
They should have talked about it.
Well, and like back up a couple more steps of accountability. Like there needs to be some vetting going on. Like this information was clearly so accessible that it came out the week the series started or the season started.
Right.
Like they could have found it.
Right.
It's just the vetting is not happening. And that was Rachel Lindsay's point. She said, I can't believe that they're going right into filming another season. Like they're not ready to do that yet. Like you got to take a step back.
It's right. Especially because to your point, I just think that there needs to be like at all levels of that franchise, like some sort of research. Like they're not like, it's going to be the same shit with Katie's. Like, and now we're just going to go into another white person and pretend it like never happened. Like that also to me, I'm like, don't be so desperate for a season that you put another, just wait.
Right.
Like, why is that so
And
hard?
also, we need a fucking break. It's literally going to be Katie's season, Bachelor in Paradise, Michelle's season, and then like you'll have like what, a couple of months break before the Bachelor starts the next January. Like you don't need that. No one needs that. No one fucking needs that.
It's exhausting. Yes. Anyway, I will also say that Matt really, I don't know if the beard was like a really strong statement, but I felt validated when Van Jones commented on it because I was just like, Van Lathan, sorry. Why did I say Jones?
Because Van Jones is a person on
CNN. Yep. Okay. Also problematic.
Van
Lathan made a comment, and I was like, thank God. It was not good. It was distracting.
Like it wasn't growing. His point is it wasn't growing down because he was like, someone said it was a James Harden beard, and he was like, no, James Harden's beard grows down. Matt's was growing out, like to the side.
I know,
and this way.
And I don't know if he wanted to like make a point that he's like so upset and like it's.
I just think that's how his beard grows. Okay, so this is also going to be fucking old news by the time this comes out, but we have to fucking talk about it, and I hate it. But like we just do.
The loss of fucking life again.
Yeah. For anyone that doesn't know, which actually is probably an okay number of people, because when I talked, this is the mass shooting in Boulder, Colorado. Um, when I talked about it on my Instagram stories the other day, I had 4 or 5 people message me being like, "What? I didn't know about this." Like, it was such a small blip on everybody's radar because everyone's like, "Oh, another mass shooting." What? Like, how?
It's desensitization as a defense mechanism. Like
It's so
I think
crazy.
our bodies are so stress overloaded that like when something is anxiety inducing and you see it, you can't even begin to like digest what it means. And this is also, I mean, I don't know, part of the reason why this is such an interesting topic for us to talk about is because of all the gun control legislation and all of, because I just like, I cannot comprehend. But this is also to say that like there was also that shooting in Georgia, which, you know, this was like a week later
Right.
that this happened.
You
We've
can't even
lost, what
keep
is it,
up.
18 people in like
Yeah, the span of a
like
week
in
and a
the
half.
span of a week and a half. Like it's just,
Well, and
and
this shooter was 21 years old and bought the AR-15 that he committed these murders with a week prior to the shooting, less than a week prior.
yeah.
Unbelievable.
I just, and it's so scary because I know we've talked about this with movie theaters and we've talked about it with, I mean, now with salons,
Churches.
churches. Like how do you like, okay, someone who really, really loves their Second Amendment rights and like owns guns, do you want to be afraid to go to the grocery store? Like, that's my question for everyone. I'm like, what? How is it? I just don't comprehend. So I tried to like dig into what the issues were around like more strict gun control laws. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm not trying to take your weapon away. I'm just trying to make it so that people who should not have them
Don't get
cannot
them.
have them. Right. And especially these, I know an area, I know, so I actually looked this up and I was on like the NRA website and I was trying to like figure out, they have like this, there's a link I can share, but it was like kind of why people are upset about this particular ban. And I get that like they're used for sporting and whatever, like people have their things, and I get that they're semi-automatic and so they're not like a fucking machine gun Kelly, but um I still don't get the point.
No,
Like
neither do
I
I.
don't understand. There was a line in there that was like it's for sporting and then personal protection. And normal guns also have rounds of 10, but I'm like, but that's like not even
No,
semi-automatic.
no.
I cannot. So I was trying to understand. And then there's like you know, okay, so people are against it because it'll create like some sort of universal gun registry or whatever. I'm like, okay, why do you care? If you own a gun
Why
and
does
you're
that matter?
why does that matter? I would really love for someone to like tell me why that matters and why, and like where, I don't know, this is another thing altogether, but like, why can't the fucking government, why can't Congress sit in a room and have a brainstorming session? Okay, guys. So if most of America thinks that like these type of weapons are problematic and you guys don't agree with what we're proposing, what do you think we should do?
Right.
Like, where is that discord? Like,
There's a disconnect if all of these surveys are right that are saying 90% of Americans want back more inclusive background checks, and the majority of Americans don't think that civilians should have access to AR-15s. If that is true, then you have the wrong people in Congress,
you
because
totally have the wrong, and they're
like
not,
that's where the disconnect is.
and they're making a political issue out of something that is not. It's just like fucking COVID. It's
Right.
like this is a public health crisis. Why is it? Why is a mask? Why is wearing a mask fucking political? Why is someone owning a semi-automatic rifle political when it's like literally all of the modern day most? I mean, there was like that crazy. I don't know who, someone shared it on social media where it was like all the shootings and the type of weapon used
Oh,
in
it's
that
Viola
shooting.
Davis.
Yes, and all of them
Mm-hmm.
are AR. Like what? And so like this modern day snapshot of like the last 8, whatever, however many years that she did, 10 years. Like if they're all resulting from, and then one of the NRA arguments was it's like no, it doesn't. This type of gun control doesn't even work because different states have tried it and like the shootings may stay the same. But I'm like, okay, but so maybe we're not trying to eradicate violence. Like that's also a mental health issue. Like, there are
Right.
layers
We're
to
just trying
this.
to have less guns in the hands of the wrong
We're trying to
people.
save more lives, because what is factually true is whether or not shootings happen, we're not debating. It's how many people lose their lives because of these weapons that are like, you can modify
Right. How
them to make
many
them
less people would have died at the Pulse nightclub or at the music festival in Vegas
right.
if it
If
hadn't
someone
been
hadn't,
America?
right, if it hadn't been semi-automatic, I don't even care. Like, whatever. So I will never understand. And like, my question to these people who are like, Second Amendment rights, it's
Right.
unconstitutional.
No one is trying to tell you you can't hunt. And no
No
one is
one's
like,
trying, right. And no
you
one's
want
trying to
to,
tell you that you can't have a handgun if you feel like it's
right.
necessary
If
for
you
your
want to carry,
protection.
cool.
But why are you against a gun registry? Like, do you want, gun owner, do you want your 10-year-old child to figure out how to get into your gun safe and have access to a gun? Like, so a gun registry, is that just a check and balance system where it's like, okay, so I don't,
You know what I read that
like, if
was
you're
so
so
interesting?
excited, if you're so proud of having your fucking gun and you believe in it so much and you believe it's your constitutional right, why are you afraid of hiding it?
Right. What I read that was so interesting was on Twitter, I think, that said if every black man in America went out and bought a gun this week, there would be gun control legislation ASAP.
I mean, who was
Like
that senator that
the
like he was a senator and he was like talking about the insurrection and he was like, yeah, if that had been a Black Lives Matter protest, I would have been scared. Okay, dude.
right.
Black
Well,
Lives
and
Matter protesters weren't spraying cops and potentially leading to the murder of a policeman with bear spray. Like, I mean, investigation's ongoing. I'm not saying that. But there is a clear video of said guy spraying a police officer and he died days later.
right.
And they're trying to figure out if there's a connection. But like, so, okay, so Black Lives Matter protesters are literally on their hands and knees. And these people have weapons, have a
Spears.
spear and bear spray, and they're actively
Right.
coming after policemen, and you're telling me that you are going to be more afraid of the black lives. Like, if that isn't racist, I don't know what the fuck is.
The two bottom lines are if these surveys are accurate, you clearly have the wrong people in Congress because they are not representing those interests. And two, I don't know who it is going to take to who has to die for them to give a shit. Like at this point, like in 2014, when you didn't do shit after Sandy Hook, like that's where it stops mattering. If the lives of 7-year-old kids don't matter enough to have some form of gun control, like it's done. No one gives a fuck then, because that should be everyone's motivation. And it just continues. Like I can't think of, and someone, when there was the shooting at the baseball field and someone died in
Yes.
Congress,
Uh-huh.
your colleague died due to a crazy shooter. And you're like, nah, it's okay. Like, who does it have to be?
Nah, it's not a gun issue. We're not saying it's only a gun issue either. Like,
right, obviously.
It's just like trying to put out a fire, right? Like, okay, what can we do immediately that's going to make a difference?
Right.
Like, I can't comprehend. I'm like, okay, I desperately want someone to like email us that's like a hardcore Second Amendment person, because I just want to ask them, like, okay, so what, I don't know, all these questions, like, do you want to be afraid of your wife and child going to the grocery store? Do you want your child to get a hold of a really harmful weapon? Like, don't you just want there to be safety measures around gun ownership? That is what it is, right? It's like, let's have checks and balances on this system.
Right. I have not actually spoken with anyone. Like when people messaged me about it, there were a couple of people that followed me that are pro-gun, but still said, I am for background checks. I am for civilians not having AR-15s. Like, it doesn't make any sense. So like the people that I've spoken to that are pro-gun in the reasonable way. Like
right.
my whole family is pro-gun except for me. Like I'm like I think something would have to happen to me for me to even consider getting a gun. Like I'm like, like an actual, like someone broke into my house and then I was
terrifying. Yeah.
Right. But like as it stands now, like I don't ever want a gun in my house. My whole family is not the same way. And all of them have multiple guns. I think my sister has like 6.
Yeah.
But like they're all that's like no one wants crazy people. That was kind
Well,
of
and
like
yeah,
no one
it's
wants mentally unstable people carrying around a gun. The end.
well, no, and Alex has a friend who like grew up in Florida, hunts, like loves to go to the range, loves to shoot, and I'm like, okay, cool, but he is a freak, like in the best way about safety. Like he's like, fuck, okay. Which I'm like, okay, I respect. Like, who am I going to tell you? I don't shoot a gun. I don't know what is it fun? I don't know. I'm also not a toxic masculine male who like probably loves the power of the
I've done it
the
once. I went shooting with my sister and her friend and Ben. I hated it. I hated
Right,
every
like I would
second of
never
it.
shoot an animal. Like maybe I would like shotgun a clay pigeon just for fun to see, like, because I feel like I'd be a really good shot. So like, okay, but like that, this is not. This is where it's like the total disconnect is, and where it is becoming political. It's like if these like, I don't know why. Like I don't understand the negative. I guess I'm like,
No.
why is this bad? Like I
No,
don't.
it's like all these, the people that are dying to keep their AR-15s are like prepping for World War III and think that they have the right to have these guns.
So that's another layer of mental health issues where
Right.
it's like if you're a doomsday
If you're
prepper.
so right, if you're so disconnected that you literally have a bunker.
Well, and here's the thing too, it's like the argument, and and I feel like this is true of a lot of people, you'd probably ask someone super pro gun, would you want to be afraid to go to the grocery store? They'd probably be like,
No, and I have my gun.
yep, I have my gun, I'll be fine. So it's this individualistic attitude of like, okay, but I need to protect myself. But like, and it's the argument.
Everyone would be protected if no one was carrying around an AR-15.
Yes, 100, right. So, but once again, people don't give a fuck about anyone else. And like the argument when, all of it might have been after Sandy Hook. What was the argument when it was like teachers should have guns?
Oh, Sandy
Like,
Hook.
let's fight guns with more guns.
Are
Really
you
sound
are you
argument.
fucking kidding me?
Right.
Absolutely not.
I can't. So my whole thing, and I'll continue to say this, is humans need to just be less of who they are, because the people that are against this vehemently are just selfish assholes.
Well, and we learned how selfish this country is in the pandemic, obviously.
Right. I'm over it.
And the message in the beginning was so wrong. It should have just been masks help you. Period.
Right. That's also fucking CDC. Fauci fucked up. I'm the first to admit it. Like,
right.
They should have anticipated that people were going to be weird about it.
The fact that it was masks protect other people, then they were like, fuck you. But if you had started with, you need a mask to protect you from getting COVID, there are still going to be people that were COVID deniers. But like there are other people that would have worn the mask because they thought they were protecting themselves instead of somebody else.
100%. 1,000%.
You got to know who you're dealing with. Like, and it's fucking Americans. So
yeah, we're not in Europe. Like Europe, people are very different.
Or New Zealand, where they literally shut down the country for one COVID case. They shut it down. They isolate the person. They contact trace. And once everything's up and going and that person is quarantined, they open up the country again. And everyone's like, okay. Literally.
The selfishness and all the things. It's like, and making political things political that should not be political.
Right.
At all. Like public safety should not be political to me. Like in what world do you live in? Like what?
America.
Yeah. Anyway. So I'm just tired, and the only way to end this segment is to say, we're thinking of the victims and their families and sending so much love, but like how fucking tired is that? Like, so no, everyone, call your fucking local government, figure it, like the states. Like I think Boulder was an interesting example of Boulder had cracked down on semi-automatic AR-15s. Like,
and it got overturned by a judge 6 days before the shooting.
Overturned by a judge, but also I think the governor or the mayor of Boulder like made a good point. Like the states needs to be at a state level, because it's just you drive 5 minutes and you're in another fucking county. So like who, you know what I mean? It doesn't.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like border protect. Like you can't totally.
You can't have border protection at the end of every county.
That's right. So someone's in Boulder, they can't buy an AR-15, but they can drive 1 hour and buy one. If they're probably going to do it. So I just it's a very
it does need to be at the state level.
Yeah, it's if federal is ideal, but yeah, state level, if that's all you can fucking do. I just don't know. It is fatiguing, right? You're just like, wow, okay.
Right. And the desensitization of it, it's like, oh, another 10 people. Like the fact that some people didn't even hear about it because it wasn't nonstop news because it's happening so much, like it's insane.
Right. All right. Okay. So switching gears from that, I mean, we could talk about that for 12 years.
Yeah.
We have news.
The most exciting news.
Someone emailed us.
For the first time, when I tell you, because I get the emails on my phone and Lo doesn't, when I tell you, I immediately screenshot it and was like, we got an email.
Listener email. Not only like an email to like comment or whatever. We've had a couple of people like be like, hey, hey.
Right. Just like little comments.
But this was a try saying that moment email. 2 of them.
So fucking good. I'm so excited.
And they're good ones. And the one I'm going to read, we might split them up because I feel like they're conversations
I think we should split them
in
up
and of themselves. Sure. But the one that I'm going to read is actually something that I've really been thinking about, given the fact that I moved recently. And so I thought it really gelled nicely. Okay. So first off, this is her email from our lovely listener. First off, I hope you actually do want email. Yes, we do. Thank you. We absolutely do. I just started listening to your show. I'm new to Bookstagram, and I'm somewhat embarrassed to say I listened to all available episodes over the course of a week. We love that journey for you.
Yeah, great energy there.
Okay, try saying that out loud moment number 1. We are going through the home buying process and are closing on our new home in less than 2 weeks. I currently live in Boston and will be moving to the suburbs, which a lot of my friends are trying to do right now. Same, COVID.
Yep.
I was talking this over with a friend who is currently house hunting, and she brought up a question that I had not even thought about. Basically, how do you reckon with buying something in a traditionally good town, quotes, knowing that what makes it good often is not actually just schools and businesses, but actually how white the town is? How do you justify essentially deciding to raise your kids in a non-diverse area? I just looked up the demographics of my soon-to-be town, and it is 81.6% white. It gets even worse when looking at the history of the town, where there are major population booms around when white flight was taking place. This entire history of home ownership and lending is steeped in so much racism, and now I feel like I'm part of the problem. But I also don't want to throw my money away on sky-high rents and want to make a good investment. I'm still working through this. I don't have a lot of answers at the moment. I just wonder if either of you have struggled with this.
Incredible. Yep. Such an incredible, couldn't have brought up a better topic.
And the self-awareness of everything she brought up, this is honestly part of the reason why we created this podcast.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Right.
It's we're having these reckonings and we're becoming so much more self-aware about these things. And if we can encourage even one person to also be that self-aware, I just feel it brings so much joy.
Right. 3 years ago, that never would have even crossed my mind.
I would have just been okay, I'm going to do the best thing for me and my family.
Right.
Which a lot of people still, and there's so many nuanced layers to this. I will first answer her question. I have struggled with this. Struggled in the sense of reconciling it in my brain, not actually I don't know. I have no answers on how you fix this problem, because I too, and I have not looked up the demographics, but I too.
I know. I want to look up mine now.
Live in the whitest, it's very white. I did the same exact thing. I was living in the city, and my husband and I wanted more space. And the particular town we live in is really accessible. It's farther of a commute for him, but it's not so out of the way. Right. So it really is for the county we're in and Marin. It's a very easy place for us to live. And that was a big consideration because he didn't want to leave the city unless his commute wasn't totally.
Do you want to know your percentage?
Yep, I do.
88.8% white.
Yep.
0.8% Black. 0.2% Native American. 5.4% Asian. 0.1% Pacific Islander, and 1.1 from other races. 3.6 from more than 2 races, and Hispanic or Latino 4.5%. So 5.4% is the next highest after 88.8.
I mean 90%. That would have been my guess of mine. And anyway, so I digress because I'm trying to paint the picture of how Alex and I decided to move to the city and the town we're moving into, and there were obviously factors that wasn't just our comfort. like we love the
Right.
home, but like, why do you love the home? You love the neighborhood. Why do you love the
Right.
neighborhood? Like we can
Mhm.
say tree lined streets for days and like walkable to like the little downtown. The downtown's cute because and I feel like that our town has always been, I know you have a different scenario, but our town has always been really white. So it's not like a
Right.
gentrification situation. It's not like so, but it it is
Right.
what.
Well, so that's the revert. Like, obviously, I don't want to cut you off and like we need to go back to it, but that's the reverse problem, right? So you move to a white suburb, a predominantly almost all white suburb. You're contributing to a problem there, or you move into a much more diverse neighborhood and are gentrifying it.
Right.
So, like,
100%.
what do you fucking do? Like, that's what we did. So we moved into our house about 4 years ago, almost exactly. Um, And I mean, even in the 4 years that we've been here, it's really changed. More houses have, I mean, this neighborhood is incredibly old. There are people that haven't left their house, like sold their houses in 30 plus years. Like it's one of the most unique neighborhoods in Charlotte. Um, but like 10 years ago, it was like, it was a scary place to be. And now all of a sudden it's like these new homes are being built, like young white people, like young couples are moving in. And it's just like you like watch it being gentrified and you're part of that problem. So like I don't even know where you like how you figure out to not be on either side of that.
I know, and here's my thing, and I would love if there was a Black listener or person of color, anyone. I I don't think that a Black person, I mean, maybe I'm totally wrong, but is a Black person telling us that we shouldn't want to live in these nice neighborhoods? Because I feel like, quote unquote, nice. Like, I look at my neighborhood and I'm like, access to nature and like all of the things that like we have. Like, I don't think that anyone's telling us not to live in those places, right?
Right.
I don't think that that's the crux of the issue. I think in the gentrification issue, it's pushing, putting in these like boutique things that like the community can't even like realistically afford. It's pushing out Black owned or like people of color owned businesses in favor of these like bougie things, which is like a
Mhm.
totally separate issue. But that's also why I struggle with it, because I really don't think that you would talk to a person of color and be like, no, that we should, for because the option is, right, like you don't move to that neighborhood at all and you move to a neighborhood where like you're the minority.
Right.
Fine, you can do that, but like, are people really trying to tell you where to live? I guess is my question. Like, no,
No, I
right?
don't think so, but like it's something to just be conscious of, right? Like
Absolutely.
so we moved into this neighborhood and to Marissa, our listener's point, like it kind of evolves. It's not just the place you live, but like, it's the schools that are associated, what makes a good school, and like what, the tax dollars that are being brought in for these schools. So the neighborhood that we
Yes.
live in has quote unquote bad schools. What does that mean? Like, if when you go on realtor.com, it ranks the
Yeah.
schools for you.
Yeah.
Um, so like, what does that mean? Why is that the way that it is? And by moving here, like Ben and I have even thought we were like, oh, well, by the time and this is like kind of a try saying that out moment for me. By the time that we have kids, these public schools will probably be ranked better. That's a thought that we've had. And like, why do I think that? It's because this neighborhood's probably going to be gentrified by the time I have a school age child.
Yeah.
And like,
But what does that mean? It means influx of tax dollars, because suddenly white people are important, whatever, in the hierarchy of importance, perceived to
right.
be more important. And yeah, it reminds me, so it's funny because before we got this email, I was actually sitting out in my backyard with a friend, and this was kind of around the time of the shootings in Atlanta or the shooting in Atlanta. And I think a lot of people, we were talking about it because she's Indian. And I think a lot of people forget that Indians are technically South Asians. And so when you're talking about AAPI and stuff, you're talking about, so, I was like checking in on her. I was asking her questions, and I was like, there's all sorts of things that people talk about, especially with Asian, like traditional, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, being the like next in line to white
Right.
people. And I was asking her about that. I was like, do you feel
Like
that
the
way?
favored minority,
Right. Like, yeah.
basically.
Like, do you feel that way? Whatever. Anyway, but I was talking to her because was like, look, I am really struggling because I wasn't considering kids at all. Like when we moved to where we moved, I obviously, like in San Francisco, the issue with the school districts is like you could have two kids going to totally separate schools. It's like a lottery system, and so it's just like
Like in a
not.
totally different school district?
Well, it's like San Francisco is not a big city, but yeah, like it's like the way they so a lot of kids end up going to private school, and I was not. I was like, I don't want my kid to go to private school, so that was my consideration because I went to public school and I turned out great. But so when we moved up here, I was like, oh great, my kid can go to public school, and that was my only school consideration. Not even a thought to how different the schools are here than even where I grew up. And my friend said it. She was like, Laurel, you don't appreciate that you were the minority in school.
In school.
And it was 100% true. I definitely had some white friends, but I would say if the numbers, like generally my Asian, Indian friends outnumbered my white friends by far. Like my ex-boyfriend who probably listens, hey Eric, he was half Chinese, half Japanese. I had a really close girlfriend that was also and so it's funny because I think that Adam Rippon, of all people, put out like an Instagram statement, which probably got torn apart in like a variety of ways. I don't know. I haven't confirmed or denied that, but he mentioned his, being in a figure skater and how he was surrounded by Asian excellence, like really like, and I reflected on that and I was like, would I have ended up where I am right now and this is such a controversial thing to say because it perpetuates some really terrible stereotypes about Asian Americans, but there is a lot of academic pressure. I can tell any one of my friends will tell you, tiger parents, it is insane. So much academic pressure. I was in that environment where like I was around that. Right. And so I was around the excellence that came from all of this pressure for these Asian Americans, these first generation American friends of mine. And I was like, okay, so how much of where I've ended up was because I had to rise to the occasion of these people that really like pushed the envelope and made it was just an interesting and like how much, and not fully understanding or appreciating in that moment, like how much it affected me, in my friends' words, to be, I wasn't the most important person in the room because of like and how that, like as a white girl, like how that's kind of like a crazy thing to say, right? Like, I don't think everyone has that experience as a white person being a minority in a schooling situation. And so I was talking to my friend because I was like, what do I do? I was like, I obviously want my kids to go to public school, but I was like, but are the public, she was like, the private schools might be more diverse. And I was like,
that's probably true.
Oh, okay. So like it changed because I do think that there's just, like, how do you, once you've moved to this like really white neighborhood, how do you, like, without like you love where you live, like you want to stay there, you enjoy your, like, it is what it is. You've already made the decision, you've moved. What steps do you take to like ensure that you not only are like being involved in other communities, but also that your kids, because I feel like that's the biggest impact. And that made the biggest impact on me and how I think about, like, I don't want to say it like made me colorblind, but it humbled me. Like, I was like, I didn't see anyone as different from me. I saw them as, oh, wow, okay, culturally, there's so much pressure and there's such a different thing. And I'm learning about these cultures. And like, but that was like a growth experience for me, I think. So how do I replicate that for like my kids if I have them? Like, I don't know what the answer is.
I don't know what the answer is either because it's literally driving them to another town, right? Like like going and doing something in another town, having like an activity.
Sports, right.
Right.
Like
I mean, that's it. That's like, it's not like they can't be in like a daycare or a preschool that is like, that diverse if 90% of the people in your town are white. Like that's just the reality.
Right.
I think the only way you get that is like, having them do things outside of the town, like aside from school, right? Like,
yeah.
But yeah.
And I guess as, I mean, Marissa mentions this, like we're thinking about schools and things like that. So like, I guess it's on white people in these predominantly white towns to also be like, there's a diversity problem. Like, how do we solve it? You know, I don't know that anything can be solved at the school level. I have no idea like what it would take, or I don't know.
It's the entire like system of the pipeline of uh, Black people not having the same advantages that white people have means that they make less money, means that they buy less expensive houses, which means less taxes, which means worse schooling, which means that they have the same advantage. They don't have the same advantages as white people, and it goes in a circle like that. It's never ending.
Never ending.
Like
So it's
it's
like, what
literally
at
never
what point
ending.
can like
Can there a spoke be taken off and like
right,
changed? Right. I don't
like the
know.
funding for schools needs to not happen in that way.
Right. I mean, right.
But
Because
also,
if you're
here's the thing: I am such a believer that literally all it takes is one good teacher, and there are plenty of amazing teachers also at these schools that are like not good, right? So like, I don't care about your national fucking ranking for your
right.
elementary school. Okay,
Right.
you know, like I don't know.
It's right. The answer, I think you're right, is funding needs to come from somewhere else. Otherwise, you're literally in this circle where they don't, because they don't have the advantages, they don't have the money, can't buy the house, doesn't provide the taxes to make the schools better, to give them the same advantages as white people.
Exactly.
Like if the money doesn't come from taxes and it comes, in the form of some federal program, grant, whatever,
Yeah.
it makes it equal for all of the schools.
Right.
Like that is the inherently racist thing that holds this whole system up, is where the money comes from, because it's already coming from affluent places that don't fucking need it.
Right. Totally. It's
Yeah.
like, I don't, anyway. So I rambled a whole shit ton. I think Marissa articulated exactly like what I've even in myself been struggling with, because I'm just like, I don't know how to correct it. I don't, like, we've chosen to live where we've chosen to live. We're really happy here and we really love it. And obviously, I like to think in my head that it has nothing to do with race and any of that. But like, if this, I don't, it probably is deep down. I mean,
Right.
probably is. Like, I don't, like, if I had a Black neighbor, no, I wouldn't give it two fucks. Like, I'm not, like, it would be, I don't,
Right.
like, that's not how I'm thinking about it. I'm not thinking about, oh, I see a lot of white people, I'm comfortable here. But like,
Right.
inherently, my neighborhood is probably so nice because there is so much money. And just like what you said, it's that cycle. So it's a
Self-perpetuating.
money, right? It's a money thing where it's like we live in an affluent town, and therefore, like, that's why the diversity is the way it is. But I do believe that it schools will save like, I often think and reflect on what we can do to combat racism, and literally every time I end up at schools. In
I just
any
looked up.
regard too, like health outcomes, all
Yeah.
of it. I desperately and truly believe in education. And anyway, it makes you feel so small and helpless, right?
Truly.
Because which is not the attitude to have, but like,
No.
what part, like, what do you do, right? Like, what, I don't, yeah.
So I looked up Charlotte's racial composition, and like, because Charlotte's a metro city, like
Mhm.
there are obviously suburbs of Charlotte. We are in like a pocket of Charlotte. So you know how in New York City there's all the different
Well, I was
neighborhoods?
going to say, in San Francisco, you could look it up and it'd be like way more diverse, but like in my neighborhood, in my little, yeah.
Right. And obviously there is no breakdown for like this little like borough of
Yes.
Charlotte,
Right.
obviously. But Charlotte is 45.1% white and 35% Black, and then goes down from there. And obviously the city is like I'm like trying to zoom in on this map. It's impossible. This, the downtown city area is the more diverse part, which is like where we live. But to your point, like it's not like there are a ton of Black people walking around our neighborhood all the time. Like there are some, but like not.
It's a red flag when you notice it. You're like, oh, ooh, a Black person.
Right. Right. Well, and there's a
Like,
little like,
whoa, it's that. I hate that every time I have that reaction. I'm like, motherfucker.
there is what was a rundown sort of little strip mall across the street from our house. It has like a small mini mart that has been there since we moved in. And then a couple businesses that have sort of changed, like basically every year. And one that is in there now is a personal fitness studio, and it's owned by a Black man. And it was like people were talking about it, not like in a necessarily racist way, but it was noticeable. Like, and it's just like, right. It shouldn't, we shouldn't be noticing that that's what's happening.
Yeah. And I just think I consistently am just like, yeah, I don't. The history of towns is so important. And I think, Marissa, I think you brought that up with regards to like the gentrification, because I mean, I guess I don't know the history of my town and I should look it up, but there is something so different. Like, I do think that people of color and Black people tell us where to live when it's like, oh, you're going to come live in my neighborhood and like literally push me out. Fuck off.
Right.
You know, like that is like, and, you know, destroy my business and, you know, do all, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. It is it's like a really great thing to think about it, because it goes both ways. Like, where do you live? Because you're going to be doing something wrong regardless, basically. And just being conscious of why you think something is good. Like, is it because it's white? Like, maybe.
Right. Like, you can't rule it out. Like I said, I didn't think about that when we were moving here at all. But like, okay, I mean, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Marissa, thank you so much. We are, like, I can't even tell you how excited we were. At least also, not only was it an amazing topic, we didn't have to talk about ourselves. So,
I mean, even though we ended up talking about ourselves anyway.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
Anyway, we have no answers, just like you have no answers. But I think that you're thinking about all the right things from our perspective. Right. It's like, that's the self-awareness, I think, is such a powerful first step. And to Jamie's point, maybe it's like, if anyone has answers to like what you should do as you're raising children, because I think starting our youth and raising them correctly is going to be like the biggest impact moving forward. So, you know, club sports. I don't know what the fuck.
Do you know what? This is like an interesting, not segue, but just like kind of end to the conversation in relation to kids. I like, maybe it was like a TikTok. I saw a video where this girl was like, you know, the millennials and Gen Z are so much less inclined to have children than our parents and Gen Xers were. Because they realize like how expensive it is, and like, you know, the environmental costs of having more kids, and they're all thinking about this. And the end of the video was like, you know who's not thinking about this? Trump voters. So like, you want the world in 30 years to be run by Trump voters. And I was like, oh my God. Like, she was like, so we like, if for no other reason, we have to have children so there is an equal balance. And I was like, holy fuck. Like,
that, I'm shook.
I was like, no. Because like, they're not like, the environmental costs, we'll have 6 kids.
Oh my God. It doesn't. Okay. So ladies, since we're mainly women, ladies, have kids or freeze your fucking eggs and like get them to people who want them. Yeah. There are plenty of people who want eggs.
So wild. I was like, oh, like we will, you know, almost certainly have kids. And I'm like, you know, kind of like, about it.
Now you're like, okay, I'm motivated.
Now I'm like, oh, like my kid may be one of the ones that is combating these idiots. Like, cool.
Right? But yeah. Whoa, shook.
Yeah. It was, whoa. Yeah, it was a lot when I saw it. I was like, oh, okay.
There's an argument pro having kids. There you go.
Yeah. Never heard anything like it. All right. Lo, I would like to know something.
Would you? Yeah. Listen to me talk even more. So I did receive an email about another one, which it's related to like headaches, migraines. I try to stay true to kind of what I feel like I actually know from my curriculum versus like getting ahead of myself on like the brain stuff. So I'm going to tackle another one that I got that was I got a bunch of questions when the first podcast first launched and the segment first launched. But then also this is a question that I've kind of been dealing with, like with a couple of friends, family members, that type of thing. So the question is, how do I lose weight? And to start this conversation, I'm going to go on a little bit of a soapbox about the body mass index.
Oh, that's so weird. I wouldn't have guessed that. That's a joke.
So people want to lose weight. I think everyone realizes that the standard of beauty is a white standard of beauty. And there are people that are like classified as obese, again, according to the BMI. So my soapbox is around the inherent racism that is the BMI and how it actually, I mean, it's what the medical community kind of uses as a barometer. But honestly, if you're trying to figure out if you're overweight or in an unhealthy metabolic situation, there are a host of other factors that you pay attention to outside of
Right.
BMI.
I'm not even in the health department, like, at all, and I fucking know that the BMI standard is garbage.
Yeah.
Like,
It's just like the beauty industry, right? It's like the reason why someone wants to lose weight is because they want to adhere to this like white standard of beauty, or standard of beauty that I guess has been white historically. And yeah, people carry their weight differently, cultures are different, like there are all sorts of nuances. And I didn't pull up a study in particular, but I believe that there are plenty of studies that prove that BMI on its own is not a singular risk factor.
yeah.
So what is important is where you carry your weight. So tissue that is in the abdomen is actually, in recent studies in recent years, doctors are considering it part of the endocrine system. And the endocrine system is like your thyroid, everything that controls your hormones, like insulin regulation, those types of things. So for whatever reason, and I don't even know if the science has figured out why, but for whatever reason, gut, like carrying fat around your middle, is the most dangerous because it essentially is metabolically active. Great. It releases hormones, and women, right? Women, I feel like have to carry this, but here's the thing: that's like, I feel like a lot of people of color carry their weight in their ass or their thighs. Yep. Like, don't let someone fucking tell you that you're obese because of that. Right. Keep in mind
it's a different body type.
That a fucking bodybuilder can also be considered to be obese. Right. According to the BMI. So like, let's not go there. But if you're carrying weight around your middle and like, that's what that you're concerned about it, absolutely. Like, doing things to kind of eliminate that is smart, only because it basically, like, imagine a fucking organ growing on the outside of your body. Like, that's kind of how people think about like gut, right? Like, if you're carrying your weight in your abdomen, which plenty of people are, because it's metabolically active, it's basically releasing one of the hormones or a couple of the hormones they release, like interfere with glucose and like insulin regulation. And so like it can basically cause you to have type 2 diabetes, insulin resistance, all sorts of things. And then another one influences your appetite hormones, which, shocking, your appetite hormones like actually come, like, it's a gut brain connection. So like, if you're thinking about like your body fat telling you that you're still hungry, even though you're not, like, that is not only affecting your gut, it's affecting your brain, which is wild. So all sorts of things. So that's my soapbox. BMI can suck a dick. Like, it's still, unfortunately, it's going to be around. Like, it's like the best measure people have. The American Diabetes Association, it does have a few more factors that, like, it's like if you are a certain age, if you've had gestational diabetes, if all sorts of other things that happen if for diabetic risk specifically. But it's mainly where you carry your weight. And again, everybody's different. Like, there are plenty of people who like are obese on the BMI and are totally fucking metabolically healthy, and it doesn't matter. But okay, so that's my soapbox. The biggest factors in weight loss are definitely diet and exercise. There are studies that kind of, a lot of people are like, is it diet or is it exercise? Like, what's the biggest impact? It definitely is both together. So from a diet perspective, it's not so much, and I hate when it's all about calorie restriction, which I feel like Western medicine is all about calorie restriction. I think that is true when your diet's really unhealthy, that it may make sense to like be eating less processed foods and those types of things. So when I think about weight loss and diet for, a normal person that comes to me, I'm like, okay, well, cut out processed foods, cut out like really refined sugars, like white cane sugars. And, alcohol can sometimes be a factor, but like, those are the bigger things. I would say processed, refined, anything like a white flour, those types of things are just not great for you. They basically, I mean, as we've talked about constantly, metabolically, blood sugar dysregulation. Like it'll put you on like a hormonal roller coaster essentially. There are studies that point to protein intake. So there might be a positive correlation. And again, these were a few years ago. So like I'm sure more studies are ongoing, but positive correlation between adequate protein intake. So, like I think the recommendation was like 2 grams a day, which honestly isn't very much. But positive correlation between having lasting weight loss with protein intake. I think personally that it's more of a fat balance. I think I've talked about omega-3s and omega-6 imbalances. So you want more omega-3s. Those are like the anti-inflammatory fats. So fatty fish like salmon and mackerel, avocado, olive oil, avocado oil, those types of things. So I think that protein is important. It depends on who you are, though. I mean, if you're vegetarian or vegan, you're tofu, that's totally fine. But again, I think it's more about the fat content. So if you do eat proteins, like animal proteins, I would focus on fish, and I would avoid like beef, chicken, because in the United States, they're typically like corn and soy fed, and it's GMO and all sorts of nasty chemicals that you're getting exposed to.
I mean, you can get good chicken, right?
You can get good chicken. It's really fun. I mean, it's hard. Like you can get, yes, it's getting easier. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. It is hard. It's getting easier. But if you look for like pasture raised and like convert, like it takes a little bit of work on your end. Vital Farms for like eggs is good. I don't know where if they sell their meats, but if you're like going to like a typical meat counter, most of what you're seeing is probably somehow not good for you. So some studies pointing to protein, I don't know how legit those are. I mean, I think it's mainly about fatty acid balance. When you're eating whole foods that aren't processed, hopefully you're consuming way more vegetables, and fiber is actually really good for weight loss because that fiber and your gut and the detoxification and bowel movements like really does quite a bit. And fiber actually, sometimes people take fiber as a supplement. That's not the first thing I would ever recommend, but if you get
really?
a soluble, yeah, if you get like a soluble fiber supplement and drink a shit ton of water with it, allegedly it increases your feelings of satiety, so your feelings of fullness, but it also like binds it, fiber is a part of that detoxification engine because it pulls like bad shit from your gut and helps you expel it, and like also helps like physically with the contractions. But so that things don't get into your bloodstream. So high fiber diets are always good. Water, which sometimes sounds contradictory to people because they're like, well, I'm bloated. Why would I need more water? Often your body is keeping stores of what it feels like is not in high volume that it needs. And water is very critical for all sorts of.
Well, that's when I woke up one morning and like my face was like wildly bloated for like what I thought was like no reason. And I texted you and I was like, what the fuck is happening?
Right.
And you were like, oh, you're probably dehydrated. And I'm sure that's what it was.
Well, or it at least helps. Like I had a friend who before her wedding was like, I'm drinking so much fucking water so that I fit into my dress so all my water weight flushes out. It really does. It just helps detoxify and gets all of that. Often, like if you're bloated in the face, like you have like your lymph pathways, like as a huge, I mean, that's like basically the trash from your blood vessels is your lymph. And so like getting that drained, and water can help just kind of like flush everything and move everything along. Spices, there are some spices and herbs. So if your GI isn't too sensitive, cayenne and ginger help with digestion, but also like the thought of ginger. I don't know if you eat ginger with like sushi, but like for me, the thought of ginger, like I pucker a little, and that kickstarting like salivation in your mouth can actually be an incredible way to help support your digestive system, because a lot happens. So like your saliva starts the process of breaking down carbohydrates in your mouth. Oh my God,
my mouth just did it. That's so fucking weird.
Yeah, but it's good. So like that's why people say do mindful eating as well, because if you're letting yourself like sit with your food and smell it, even like food preparation helps, but it gets your body ready to digest so that there's more energy going to that.
That's really interesting.
Part of your body. But yeah, it's a huge thing. Chamomile has been used in Eastern medicine for like stomach acid secretion. So stomach acid is super, super important. A lot of people are like, oh, I have too much. I have like, stuff happening in my esophagus. Yeah, that actually is often not enough stomach acid, which is counterintuitive and contradictory, but that's often not enough. And so your body sometimes like overcompensates. But
So then do you eat acidic things?
I don't want to like totally advise on that yet because no, that is not the answer because you're already a little bit irritated. It's more about some people who are on proton pump inhibitors, so like any sort of gastric reflux, any sort of medication that dampens your stomach acid so much that you have trouble digesting things. So you're often like deficient in micronutrients that your stomach acid helps to like, the stomach acid has a role. Like it breaks down stuff. It helps your body fully take what it can from the food you're eating. So if you have not enough, like that can cause all sorts of symptoms, which like kind of results in this like gastric, GERD feeling. Anyway, we can talk about that in another episode. But chamomile, so tea. So like if you have, I don't do this, but like chamomile tea actually isn't a terrible idea to do like before you have a meal. So if you're, feeling like you need a little bit extra help in the digestion department. And again, I'm going to talk about tea on another episode, but the power of tea, period, is just cannot go unnoticed. Hydration, antioxidants, all sorts of yummy, delicious things. So I'll talk about tea in another episode. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's like poop in a bag. Yes, correct. Most of the tea you buy can be poop in a bag. So we can talk about tea later. But it can also help with appetite suppression. So that's another thing water does is it kind of fills you up. So if you're really, again, I don't love to think about weight loss in this way because calorie restriction, appetite suppression, we don't need to be a part of that. But if you have a lot of belly fat and you think that like, okay, there's something going on with my brain thinking I'm still hungry, water and those types of things can be really helpful because your belly fat is probably communicating in some way, shape, or form hormonally with those systems in your body. So can helpful. Exercise, again, we talked about that dietary shifts and losing weight should not be done in a silo. Exercise is also really important. It helps your muscles take up glucose from your blood. So it helps if you're insulin resistant or like pre-diabetes or like think you have issues with blood sugar regulation, it can help. And the most interesting thing about this, and I learned this recently, is that serotonin, which when you exercise, you get happy hormones. We've all talked about that. Serotonin can be one of them. And serotonin actually plays a role in craving regulation. So like if you like get a boost of serotonin or adrenaline, whatever you feel from a balanced exercise, that can actually help you not be as hungry. So
that's great.
Be a factor, in exercising. So I would aim, if you're actively trying to lose weight, aim for 30 minutes to 1 hour of like moderate intensity activity. I struggle to encourage people to do like super high intensity unless it's a part of their regimen. It obviously is beneficial for a host of people, but it actually can cause more cortisol it can cause a stress response in your body, like a fight or flight stress response. And if that persists in your body is not used to handling that level of stress, it can cause so much inflammation. It's not going to help you. Stress, again, it fucks with everything, including digestion.
Everything.
Literally, including, and you probably maybe don't think you're stressed, but I think everyone right now especially has a low level of stress response happening. So anything that can help you get back into your body, into deep breathing, oxygen, like I think we take for granted. But so many, like literally the production of energy in our body requires oxygen. So if you're not getting enough energy, like you don't think about it at the cellular level, like you think about my lungs filling and like my brain, but literally at the cellular level, it's incredibly important. So anything you can do, anything that if it's coloring, adult coloring, or organizing something, anything where you're like, oh wow, okay, I feel a change in my heart rate. I feel really zen. Sometimes for me, it's the housewives. Just want you to know. Not proud of it, but sometimes, honestly, the best. And then So I'll recap quickly before I go into the things that I'm kind of curious about. So generally, my biggest thing about weight loss, fuck BMI, but pay attention if it's belly fat, because that's metabolically active. The best things you can do single-handedly are diet combined with exercise. Don't do like too high intensity exercise if it's not a part of your regimen already. Build up to that. Just do something enough where you're like, and if it's moderate, if you're like, oh, I walk all the time, just maybe walk for 45 minutes instead of 30, or like do something where you're like, for a consistent amount of time, your heart rate's up. On the diet spectrum, whole foods, which is going to give you fiber, which is going to help you detoxify, limit processed foods, limit sugars, spices and herbs are super interesting. So things that are kind of like bitter or like pungent can actually start that digestion process and make it easier for your body to digest food, and also comes with like antioxidants and other wonderful things. And I think that was it. And then stress, obviously, we just talked about. The things I'm curious about that I want to do more research on, which if anyone is a health professional that knows anything here, apple cider vinegar. There have been studies in mice that prove that it might have some like anti-fat properties.
I've tried apple cider vinegar. I cannot stick with it because I think it's so disgusting.
I mean, when I could have it, I temporarily cannot have it. But when I would use it as the vinegar in like a salad dressing, and I couldn't tell because it was just like the pungent part. So it's like a way to use it. Anyway, so I'm curious. The study is a little weird because they literally fed the rats intentionally like high fat diets and then like compared. But I mean, that's also to say they were feeding a rat a really high fat diet and then giving them apple cider vinegar, and it like mitigated some of the negative metabolic effects. So I don't know. And then on the adaptogenic side of things, ginseng and ashwagandha.
I've heard ashwagandha, but like, I don't know why.
I don't know
why
about
it's
weight
considered
loss.
that.
Well, so ashwagandha I know has proven effects on stress responses. So like
so
it's kind of like
issues.
an anti-anxiety, right? So I think it's probably like a cortisol, like it's a reducing stress response type of thing, which helps with that inflammation in the body. But anyway, so those are things like TBD if I figure out more. But yeah. So
that's a really good one because, like, of course, when you come to a nutritionist, right, like most people are coming because they want to look different. I would say most. Like, there are obviously people that are already conscious. Like, I think you have a nutritionist, right?
I do.
So like people like you, where you're already extremely conscious, you're already in very good shape, but it's like, I still want to have someone like, to confirm like these are the right things or like run things by. Most of the people that come to a nutritionist are not those people, and, need to hear that these are the things that are going to help you lose weight if it's carried around your stomach and it becomes a metabolic issue. Like that's what, that's what the majority of people are going to need to hear.
Right.
So it's not just like, I want to lose weight. It's like, what is actually going on inside your body with that this is a problem.
Right. And I think also you're totally right. Like most people go to a nutritionist either on their own or from a doctor's recommendation because they just like, it's aesthetically, they're like, I just want to look better and feel, but a lot of that is also feeling better, right? Like mental, like your appearance can help you feel better, but there are probably all sorts of underlying things they don't even realize are happening as a result of, whatever they're eating or whatever.
For sure.
I feel for people with invisible illnesses like me because I look like I am the picture of health, right? There's so much shit going on inside my body that like, it's like, okay, so if I wasn't as in tune with my body as I am and so concerned about health, like there are probably people that look like me that like feel like crap, that like think like, oh, well, it's fine. I'm skinny. Like I'm good.
For sure.
I'm good. I don't need to do anything. Let me just tell everyone, you guys, you can feel better. You can be skinny as a fucking rail, whatever.
And feel like shit.
And have shit going on that's not like, even if it's just like brain fog, which is like my biggest symptom these days, like that that's not a thing. That's brain inflammation. I'm honestly same with migraines. I know I didn't want to speak to that, but everything like that is a physical symptom of brain inflammation. And like, you don't have to feel that way. You shouldn't feel that way. So like that, once again, weight is just this like very, it's an interesting phenomenon because I think honestly goes both ways because probably not enough people that look like me are going to nutritionists because they think they're fine because physically they're like that beauty ideal.
Right.
Whereas,
And so they don't care.
right, where there's plenty of people who are made to feel like crap because they're quote unquote obese according to the BMI scale, who A, maybe aren't, and B, who the fuck is the BMI to tell you? Like, it depends on where you're
The
carrying your
BMI
weight.
is garbage.
Yeah, it's total garbage.
Like,
so advocate for yourself, people. If a doctor's telling you you're obese because of your BMI and you're like, I just have a really good ass, you take that good ass to another fucking doctor. You heard it here first.
That was a good one.
Okay. I don't know, who do I think I am? That fucking, what's his name?
Yeah, what the fuck was that? That was something.
All right.
That's what it reminded me of. Yes.
That's what
I couldn't place it.
What's his fucking name again?
Matthew McConaughey.
Brain fog. Who do we got? What
Enneagram 6.
Enneagram 6, which I don't really know much about. Do I know? I don't know. You tell me what I know about.
My sister is an Enneagram 6, and I'm trying to think if there's anyone that I know off the top. There's a couple people on Bookstagram that you would probably recognize that are 6s, but no one immediately comes to mind that's a 6. Right. So the Enneagram 6 bingo, quote, do you think I should, comma, worst case scenarios, quote, do you mean that? Great in a crisis, doesn't know what to order for lunch, loyal as fuck, and follows through with their commitments. So Enneagram 6s are extremely, extremely loyal people, and they're also extremely anxious people. Those are like their two like biggest characteristics. So how 6s travel by plane. Oh my God. Okay. We're going to be late. Oh my God. Okay. We're early. It's good. It's good. We're all good. I hate flying so much. Like, so many things could go wrong with planes, you know? Like, I'm careening through space on a chair in the sky. How is that safe? Yeah. Right. Yep.
There are parts of me that feel this. So like this is,
and it's adjacent to a 7.
It's adjacent. So like maybe I am a balanced wing because part of that where I'm like,
when I was, I mistyped as an 8 and I mistyped as a 4. And then when I got to being a 2, I was like, well, like, I feel like 2 and 6 they do have a lot of similarities. That is a common mistype. If someone's a 6, they're a 2, or the other way around. Because of the loyalty and the reliability and that kind of stuff. And so 2s who are anxious are like, oh, then I must be a 6.
Yeah.
Because anxiety is a huge part of being a 6, and like a lot of worst case scenario stuff.
I'm a huge worst case scenario. I don't know that I'm anxious about it, but I'm like the person that's like, okay, let me just, all right, so let's plan for the worst case, because it just like makes me feel like I know
that is very heavy on the 6.
Yeah.
So a lot of 2s will, that are anxious will be like, oh, I must be a 6, but like, no, really, you're just a 2 with anxiety. Like there's a difference. There's a difference.
Yeah, okay.
So the 6s are called the loyalist, the oracle, the skeptic, and the guardian, and they are the committed, security-oriented type, reliable, hardworking, responsible, and trustworthy. From the Millenniagram, 6s have never met a thing they couldn't overthink.
All right.
So, yep. Characteristics, they are excellent troubleshooters, but they can also become defensive, evasive, and anxious, running on stress while complaining about it. I feel like that's like a very succinct way to like explain something.
I have an image of that person in my head from that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's very like it immediately evokes a type of person.
100.
Cautious and indecisive, but also reactive, defiant, and rebellious. They have problems with self-doubt and suspicion, but at their best, they are internally stable and self-reliant. And also from the Millenniagram, 6s are gathering information to stave off the fucking apocalypse. Like the worst case scenario situations, it is always like in the back of their head. Like, well, what if this happens? Like, what if?
Right.
So their basic fear is of being without support and guidance. So their basic desire is to have security and support. So their unconscious childhood message is it's not okay to trust yourself.
Oh, that is heartbreaking.
Yeah. Reading this makes me think I should have prepared for this topic on this episode. We'll do it on another episode, but little teaser alert, I am I'm crippled by making my own decisions, which I never would have guessed.
Yeah.
And no one really assumes that about me because like I'm loud and I'm sort of in your face and you just sort of get the vibe that I like really make decisions. I don't. I'm totally crippled by them. And
So
so
interesting.
yeah, it's really weird. So like reading that, I'm like, oh, like I get why I thought I was like a 6 for a second.
Mm.
Their key motivations are they want to have security, to feel supported by others, to have certitude and reassurance, to test the attitudes of others towards them, and to fight against anxiety and security. So all about loyalty, anxiety, security, like, that's their thing. So a general overview, they are the most loyal to their friends and beliefs, often dying on hills and hanging on to relationships of all kinds far longer than most other types. Um, they are loyal to ideas, systems, and beliefs. So if they are born and raised Catholic, the likelihood of them changing, not that good. If they are born and raised Republican, the likelihood of them changing, not that good. They are like what they are taught and like
So
what they
inherent, it
believe.
runs deep.
It's
Yeah.
right. It runs deep. Um, they are the primary type in the thinking center, which is 5, 6, and 7. But they have the most trouble connecting their own inner guidance, so they don't have confidence in their own minds and judgments. They are big worriers and tend to fear making important decisions, but they want to avoid being controlled, but are also afraid of taking responsibility. They are always aware of their anxieties and are looking for a security blanket. And until they get in touch with their own inner guidance, sixes are like a ping pong ball that is constantly going back and forth between whatever influence is hitting them hardest at any given moment. So for sixes, no matter what we say, the opposite is also true. That's like a very known thing about sixes. So like they're big worriers, but they don't want to take responsibility, but they don't want to be controlled. Like it literally goes back and
Yo-yos back and
forth.
forth.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's a
No
lot.
wonder. It's making me anxious just learning about this.
Right. So, like I said, they're in the thinking triad with 5 and 7, and they're in the middle. So, they're the type that projects their issue both inward and outward. So, anxiety is their issue,
Yeah.
and they're projecting it outward to other people, and they're also internalizing their anxiety. So, it's like lots of things. And their goal by doing this is to somehow get some sort of security. Again, like those are the themes of 6 are like extremely common throughout. Their social style is compliant, which is the same as 1 and 2. So they need to be of service to other people. They try to obey internalized rules and principles learned from childhood. They respond to stress by consulting with their superego about how to meet the demands of what others expect. And then basically 6 want to earn the security that they're like trying to get. Yeah, 6s are trying to
Are
earn.
they, you said something a little bit alluding to like external validation. Are they really motivated by like approval from other people
When they're unhealthy.
when they're unhealthy? Okay.
That is like, it's like, yeah, you hit the nail on the head for that. So their coping style is reactive with 4s and 8s. They react emotionally to conflicts and problems and have difficulties knowing how much to trust people. And I left in this little thing about 4s. So yeah, like it makes sense that like they are reactive and they aren't trusting people because that's just who they are.
Right.
So the wings, 6 wing 5 is the defender. They excel at various kinds of technical expertise, and they are outstanding problem solvers. They have the greater powers of concentration than 6 wing 7, so they are able to concentrate more, and they are also more serious and independent than a 6 wing 7. They're reactive, aggressive, and tend to blame, scapegoat any perceived threats that they get. And the Millenniagram calls them calm preparedness. That's like the chicken noodle soup for the hot mess soul.
Oh my God, chicken noodle soup for the teenage soul. That brought me back.
I know.
Hot mess soul.
Some examples of 6 wing 5s are Malcolm X, Bruce Springsteen, Mel Gibson, and Nixon.
Oh, wow.
Right. It is a wide variety of people.
There, yep.
So 6 wing 7 is the buddy.
Okay.
They tend to avoid heavy topics and restrict their focus to their security needs. They are eager to be liked and accepted, but more hesitant to speak out. They are visibly insecure and depend on loved ones for reassurance. They're not particularly political, but they can be opinionated about whatever it is that they think. Like they're not going out of their way to be political, but they have their thoughts.
Yeah.
Some examples are Tom Hanks, Meg Ryan, Jay Leno, Julia Roberts, and Princess Diana.
Oh, Princess Di.
Yeah. Okay. So then the instinctual variants of sixes, the self-preservation variant is called responsibility, the oxymoron, and the six is six. Basically, it is the most six version of sixes, like that you can possibly be, is self-preservation. Basically, if hypervigilance was a person, it would be a self-preservation six. They are convinced they are always teetering on the edge of disaster. They don't venture out of their immediate circle often, and they tend to fret about small things, leading to catastrophic thinking and worst case scenarios. They don't disguise their anxiety and neediness, and this can look like a two. I was like, cool, that's excellent.
Sweet.
But that is clear. That's why I thought I was like a six when I
Yeah,
was
it
like,
makes sense. Yeah.
right. And it's also why there's a lot of mistyping. There are a lot of similarities that overlap with an unhealthy two. The social sixes generate support. They manifest as being too sure about life, and they are most concerned about fitting in with people. They're deeply concerned about getting in trouble with the powers that be. So they are very focused on like
Authority.
who, very focused on authority. They like choosing who the best authority is. So like pretend a six is pretty political. They're going to tell you what news you need to watch to get the information you need. This is the authority on that. They're very big into that. They can develop passive aggressive issues with authorities and friends, and they can look like a one or a three. They can mistype as that. The sexual sixes are symbols of power and connection. They're a quote from the Millenniagram is the best defense is a good offense. So they charge towards the things that scare them. They develop physical strength, power, and or physical attractiveness, and want to attract a powerful and capable mate. So they frequently test the people that they're with. They quietly mutter, "Do your worst" to the world, which can look like an eight, because eights are just like, the no bullshit.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have like the levels of development: healthy 1 through 3, average 4 through 6, and unhealthy 7 through 9. And that'll be on the sheet. I just, for the sake of time, I don't read them out. So sixes and stress. When dutiful sixes are moving in the direction of their disintegration, they suddenly become competitive and arrogant like threes. So they can become boastful, self-promoting, adopt condescending attitudes, dismissing others, and hyping up their own superiority. And the Millenniagram explained it in the best way, and you'll know this person. And it doesn't mean that they're a six. They could just be a shit three also, but this is a very common trait of it. We see endlessly syrupy Instagram posts about how great everything definitely is, how happy they definitely are, and how calm and content they definitely feel on the inside. So it's like the person that is constantly like,
look at my life. Look how great.
Yes.
Yeah.
That you get the full highlight reel of their life all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
Just know it's a highlight reel, everyone. Just know it's a highlight reel.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was like, you like know, like as soon as you hear that sentence, you know that person. Right. Like you can picture that person. But in health, when they are moving in the direction of integration, growth, fearful, pessimistic sixes become more relaxed and optimistic like healthy nines. They become balanced in their instincts and grounded in their bodies, and can approach tremendous challenges and even tragedies or threats with inner balance. So like sixes at their best are like pretty chilled people, but like it is very hard for a six to get to that point because they're so anxious all the time.
Yeah, the anxiety overwhelms totally.
Yeah. So some other examples of sixes in history that don't have a wing, or that aren't on the site as a wing: Mark Twain, Freud, Prince Harry, Mike Tyson, Eminem, Spike Lee, Marilyn Monroe, Mark Wahlberg, the original, Jennifer Aniston, Sarah Jessica Parker, David Letterman, Chris Rock, Larry David.
Oh, that's a good company.
Mm-hmm. Larry David, I was like, oh, clearly, like Curb, like
right.
And
Prince
also,
Harry.
Yeah, it's a good list. So that's Enneagram 6, and we will upload that, or this will be uploaded on the link so you can click it. And I've now figured out the issue. Every time I've given it to Lo, there's a thing that I have to turn on that's allow anyone to view this that has this link. And before it was allow anyone to view this that you've shared it with. So only Lo and I could see it. So I have now
Sorry, dudes.
fixed that problem. So guys, we have some sad, bad news for you. Because, life just fucking happens sometimes. Life just happens. Lo is in school. And we wanted to give Deacon King Kong the attention it deserves. And also, to be clear, we didn't tell you. Even though I thought we did.
Jamie was
even though I thought we did.
Very much passionate about the fact that we did.
I was. So we are moving it to the next episode. I actually once Lo talked to me about having it on this episode, I didn't finish it either. I'm 3/4 of the way through.
Yes, I just for context, everyone, I have had so much reading for school. It's very, very dense, like biochem reading. And I literally was trying to read Deacon King Kong and had to reread multiple pages. Like
There's a lot going on.
I would read a page and be like, wait, well, what the fuck is happening? And I'd have to go back. And I just was like, at that point, I started to get like, it's, I wanted to spend the time with it because people say excellent things about this book. So I wanted to be able to A, spend the time with it and give it what it deserved, but also B, be able to say smart things about it. And I was like, how am I going to craft a coherent sentence about this book if I literally have to go back pages and chapters because I can't focus on it? So
right,
honestly,
there's a ton of names also.
Ton of names. Right. It's like,
yeah. No, I totally get it.
Yeah.
You need to be, this is not a book you should like plan on reading leisurely. It's like, you got to pay attention.
You have to pay. And I just was not. The only thing, honestly, I can pay attention to in the last week has been Housewives and trashy TV. So that's kind of where I'm at.
So that being said, when we release will be out on April Fool's Day, if I remember correctly.
Yes, April 1st.
And then our next one will be on fucking tax day. So get ready for that. But so the April 15th episode is when we will be discussing Deacon King Kong. Yeah, so we're sorry, but not totally sorry.
I thank Jamie for letting me be like, can we not talk about it? But
to be clear, she texted me and was like, can we, like, are you going to be so mad if we don't talk about Deacon King Kong on the next episode? I was like, what were the chances that I responded and was like, fuck you, we must.
I don't know. I was like, I just felt like, when you like say you're going to do something, I'm very much like a do what you say you're going to do type of person. And so it gives, I don't want to like, anyway.
Yeah,
but
no. Anyway,
my brain
life
thanks
happened.
you. My brain thanks
You're
you.
welcome.
It still thanks you because I'm like halfway through and I still like.
It's a lot. So like prepare yourself.
It's nothing for like the quality of the book. I don't think, but I'm like just mentally, I'm like so spent that I cannot. But because we did not adequately announce this book in the first place anyway, because we are.
Gives you extra time.
Waffles. We are going to announce. So the next book we're going to read is Red Pill by Hari Kunzru.
And guess what, guys?
What?
This, not you. You already know this.
Oh.
This was going to be a JLo Reads pick for any JLo Reads fans out there. This was like one of the upcoming ones had we continued.
And I happen to have an extra copy.
Why?
I blame it on the brain fog where I was like, I want to read this twice and just didn't realize that I bought it. So maybe I will ask for listeners of this podcast one fun fact question, and if you answer it correctly, you can have the second copy.
Love that.
Why don't I do that?
Love that journey.
Anyway, Red Pill, Hari Kunzru. It has a pretty cover.
It's very pretty cover.
Which is helpful. I mean, to be honest, because we're white girls, and here we are on our white girl podcast.
Yes, we are.
Welcome.
I love a good fucking cover. Remember when we judged the Bridgerton covers?
Oh, that was one of my favorite things in all of the episodes.
It was great. It was great.
What else are you reading, though? So you're still reading
fucking
JKK?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Literally nothing. Actually, that's not true. Now, up until when I was prepping for the podcast, I was not reading anything. And I asked people, like, I got to get out of this slump. And I think it's the same thing with you. It's like not about the fact that Deacon King Kong isn't a good book, because it is. It just requires a lot of mental energy. And
sometimes you just need something where it's like, I don't have to think about anything heavy.
Right. Well, the thing is I showed my book cart and everyone was like you don't really have anything light on your book cart. I was like, cool, that's great. Um, and everyone that saw my book cart was like, you need to read Born a Crime by Trevor Noah
Mm-hmm.
immediately.
Yes, it's funny. And
Immediately.
you'll laugh. It's funny.
Well, so I started it and I actually posted about this on my Instagram. I started it and everyone was like, "Oh my God, you also need the audio. You need to listen to it on an audio."
Oh,
And it's only on Audible.
okay.
I have a Libro FM account. Ben has an Audible account. And so I'm like, hey, I texted him. I said, hey, can I use, did you read this story?
No.
Okay. I said, can I use your Audible credit
Yeah.
to buy a book?
Yeah.
And he said, sure. So I went and bought Born a Crime. And like not even thinking about it, left my physical copy of Born a Crime on the kitchen counter. And he walks in and was like, what is that? And I was like, what is what? He was like, that, your book. You got the same audiobook as your book? Did you like think I wasn't going to notice? And I was like, I literally didn't think about it at all. It didn't
You're
even
gonna
cross my
immersive
mind.
read.
Right. So I said, like, I was like, it didn't
What was his
even.
reaction to immersive reading? That's what I really want to know.
He wanted to die a little bit, a lot. He was like, no, no. Like, I don't know what to tell you. But almost every response that I got, I posted this on like as a story, and every response that I got, except for one who is a friend of ours, was like, yeah, you immersive read. I have all like I do this all the time. And one person suggested getting the audiobook from the library next time, which I think is very smart.
Smart.
Yep. But they're like, no, I do this all the time. And the way I found this was a cool immersive read was I was listening to it. And every time he said something that like was funny or like I wanted to point out, I opened the physical book and kind of knew where I was and marked it with a tab.
Yeah.
So I've been doing like a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was unpleased that I was doing that.
Just can't even. His reaction would be everything.
Yeah, it was but it was like, oh, did you think I wasn't going to find out? Like, what did you think? And I was like, literally nothing. If I thought I needed to hide it from you, I wouldn't have put my physical copy on the kitchen counter.
Literally zero thoughts about it. I did not think it was
absolutely none. And what's crazy, he listens to this, so he's going to hear this. If this ends up being, like one of my books, look at that. I'm like, this is a shelfer.
Yeah.
I'm buying a hardcover copy.
Why a hardcover? Oh, come on. You do that?
This is the tiniest little paperback, and I want it in hardcover.
Do they have a hardcover? I actually have never seen it in hardcover.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know though.
So maybe they don't. So that's the only thing that I've been reading besides Deacon King Kong, and I just started, but it's good. Obviously everyone said it was great, so I have no worries there. It is a lot more intense than I like. It's not intense in a way that like I'm gonna get back into another reading slump, but like holy fuck, his life, like
I know,
just unreal.
I know,
unreal.
I mean, I always liked him, and then I read the book, and I was like, yeah, he's such. I mean, I really enjoyed reading that. It was quick.
Have you read anything that's not Deacon King Kong?
I started Minor Feelings.
Oh, I know. Yes. Okay.
And got a little bit. I started Minor Feelings when I thought I could fit another book in before Deacon King Kong. So that was funny. That's a funny joke. Really good joke, Laurel. And I'm reading on the side in terms of health books, a book actually that I think I'm going to like really widely recommend to people because people have asked me for book recommendations in the health sphere. So I'm literally like 30 pages in and I already know it's going to be a really good one. It's called Gut. Just Gut by Julia Enders. Okay. And I think there are a couple of gut books, but you'll be able to tell. It's like gut, like the most underrated, something about the most underrated organ in the body. And so that's it. But no, I mean, really, honestly, I have not been reading. I've been watching.
Wait, before we dive, okay. I've also been, but everyone knows we're talking about Temptation Island, but I started Love Island UK. And
so good.
Like beautiful we're now, now we are Temptation Island, Love Island UK. And like you said, there's no scenario where the US version is better because the British slang is so fucking funny. Like,
So
and you
funny.
have to watch it with subtitles on because like you don't have a fucking clue what's happening
Don't
otherwise.
or what they're saying because there's so
Right?
many accent. What do you call them?
There's so many
Dialects.
different accents.
But it's like
Yeah.
a accent dialect where like one of the girls in season 1, I can't remember her name, but I'm like, what are you
It's
saying?
Hannah. She's from
Uh-huh.
Liverpool.
Yep,
Yeah.
big boobs.
Yeah.
Marilyn Monroe. Uh-huh. Yeah. You don't know
Yeah.
what the fuck she's saying most of the time.
Right. So we started. So when I say we, like I said, I'm going to start watching it, and Ben was sitting on the couch and said, like, yeah, this can be a show you watch alone, and I think he would maintain that. I think he would say, like, yeah, I don't care if you play it when I'm not in the room. I haven't, and every time I do play it, he's invested. So
here's the thing. So it has like 85 episodes per season. Like it
it's
literally
like so. I've never.
So when I say I've watched most all of the seasons of Love Island UK, now you know how much time Alex and I spent.
It's so much. This is not an exaggeration. It's actually 50 episodes a season, and I was like, I don't.
So here's the thing, which is good about it. So you could watch it, and probably nothing that major would happen, and you could tell then what happened, right? So like that's the beauty of it. It's like you can kind of have it on the background, and like nothing. I mean, it's hysterical.
Well, there's a couple recap episodes, like, you know, every 5 episodes there's a recap
episode. Yeah, which are I forgot about those. They're so annoying. But anyway.
So Ben likened it, and I've never seen this, but Ben likened it to Big Brother, and that there was a ton of episodes, and that it was like airing live.
I've never seen Big Brother either.
So apparently it's the similar where people that are coming in have seen episodes already and like know who these people are, which is unlike anything I've ever seen.
Oh my god, it's wild. So good. It was supposed to be. They were supposed to be recording in 2020, and then they had to come. Did they go to that? No, they couldn't go on the island because of COVID.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited to keep going. Ben was so. I used to not really watch. I used to watch a lot of reality TV, but not this like genre. Like I didn't start The Bachelor until 3 years ago. It was like that was like a point of pride. I was like, I don't watch The Bachelor. I don't watch this. I don't watch that. And I like had just like I did. It was not a point of pride that I didn't watch Love Island or Temptation Island. That I literally just like they never crossed my radar.
Yeah.
But Ben was like, so now you're Bachelor, Temptation Island, Love Island, and you are 1/2 step away from starting a Real Housewives binge, which has been my bottom line point of pride. That I'm like, I've never seen a fucking episode of Real Housewives. He's like, that is coming to an end quickly. Clearly,
I mean, if you take my suggestions,
right,
like you're kind of doomed. Yeah. No. I watch all the trash TV. I just find it so therapeutic. I don't know why.
Love Island is something else.
Isn't it? Doesn't it just make you laugh so much?
The camp bedroom, amazing.
It gets, I don't know how many episodes you're in, but when they start having
like
sex.
16.
Yeah, when they start having sex.
Oh, yeah.
It's just
it's so fucking weird.
Funny.
It's so weird.
It's so weird, but so funny. And that's another example of yet another show where I feel like there's camaraderie. And I love it so much.
So like obviously I'm only on season 1, but like the original 12, 6 and 6 people, they are like a unit, and it is like pretty hard to break in. And you know, I'm at the point where 2 people from the original 12 are gone, but like they are doing everything they can to keep the original people.
Absolutely.
For the most part.
Yeah. 100%.
Which is so interesting.
I just love
it. It's kind of like The Bachelor when they were like, when you had the 5 girls come in and like it was more or less a fluke because Michelle was so great that she stayed. But like
totally
not many.
And I think with Love Island it's interesting because like you'll in some seasons, not the one you're watching, it's one's coming to mind in particular, but there's a girl that like gets kind of like screwed over by a couple of the original guys, and they're so in with the girl that they're like, fuck these guys, like, and they're accepting of new guys, but as long as she likes him, it's like a family, right? It's like, well, okay, you're good as long as she likes you. Like, so, you know, I trust what her judgment. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, so the episode that I just watched, they picked, you know, the power couple for the first time, and then the power couple came out and had to eliminate somebody immediately. Gnarly. Which was fucking wild. Wild.
This show brings me so much joy.
It's great. But obviously this has turned into a Temptation Island podcast. So I was not caught up prior to almost not caught up.
Well, you gave me shit last time for saying I wasn't caught up, so I like made sure to watch it.
Well, so Ben has not been home the last 2 nights because he's had some work functions, and we watched it. Like that is a show we actively watched together. So I had been waiting, and then I was like, oh, like I need to know. So I told Ben I would rewatch it with him, and then watched it this afternoon.
Yeah.
So I'm now fully caught up. So like if you are not, I mean, by the time this comes out, I would imagine you would be, but like we're gonna talk about the episode. So
There were so
go
many,
off.
so many annoying. Okay, Kendall is the most delusional human being.
I don't understand. Like, who are you? What is your purpose?
Okay, my favorite scene of all of this. Okay, actually, let me back up.
Okay.
Alex asked me who my favorite guy was in the very beginning. And I was like,
Of this season?
Julian, no question. He was like, that meathead? And I was like, just wait. I stand by the fact, I know Julian cheated on his girlfriend. I understand the history. But I still think, besides Corey, who is growing on me, he is the best human being on the show.
Yeah, that's probably, well.
Because, let me tell you why.
Of the 8, you mean?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I think, yes, and of those guys. Like, I just think he's like, here's the thing, and here's why I really liked him. Driving in the car on the way to the bonfire for the guys bonfire. Mm-hmm. I think it was who Corey, by the way, is also growing on me. But Corey asked Kendall, oh, so like, where are you at? Like in terms of like salvaging your relationship with Erica. And he was like, yeah, I definitely want to salvage it. Julian sitting in front of Kendall, his face, he was like, so like, who are you?
So what are you doing?
Who are you leading on then? Are you leading on Alexis? Or, which by the way, her parents did her no fucking favors with the spelling of that name.
Her name is spelled Alexcys. Alexis. Like every time I look at it, and I'm really sorry if that's how your parents spelled your name also. I've never seen it in my life. And I had to think about it when I was reading it.
I had to, when I was writing it down in the document, because I knew I needed to know how it was spelled, I had to Google it. Because I was like, it doesn't make any, like, how.
No, absolutely not.
Anyway.
So that's who, obviously that's who Kendall is like with, sort of.
But then he makes that throuple comment with that other girl.
He's like, I'm in a throuple now with Nicole, who is spelled Nickole.
Who, by the way, Alexis is like going to be traumatized if she ever knew that. Because I think she like really, however much you can like really like someone at this stage. And like, why are they like on a truck bed, like talking about kids? And Erica's like laughing.
I want 10 kids.
Erica is the queen of the show for me. I just think she is.
Oh, 100. She's great.
The longest human being. And like,
now the fact she's like, I've seen him in a threesome. Like, what else are you going to fucking throw at me at this point?
So her reaction to Kendall, who she's been dating for 2 years, is how I almost expected Matt James to react to Rachel. Where he's like,
I don't give a fuck.
Like, okay, you fuck it, whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. But like, Erica, I'm sorry, like you have a reason to like be way more, like 2 years of a relationship and like he did shit to you and he's being such a dick. I just, his delusion at like, oh yeah, like when Mark Wahlberg is like, so what do you think Erica's going to be able to overcome the things that she's seen you do here? He's like, definitely.
He's like, yeah.
Definitely.
Like, it's unreal. And also I took to heart your D-list Chris Harrison is like a therapist thing, and was like really listening in, and like he is like really digging in, like, well, why is that the problem? What's the underlying problem? I'm like, Jesus Christ.
It was fucking therapy. No, and when he got in the prior episode, he got Kristen to talk about her brother's suicide and like sat next to her, but was like, and what did he say? He was like, and do you feel like it's your fault? And she was like, yeah. And he was like, but is it your fault? No. It was interesting. Like clearly there was like scenes we didn't
I wonder if he has he does not have a degree in it, that much I know. I've Googled it, but I wonder if like he has had some sort of like training to like ask.
He must. Because like there's no, like he literally, it reminds me of a therapist. Like I'm like, oh, he, like in my mind, he's credentialed in some way. Like that's how his line of questioning. He's not. Anyway, but the most cringy for me, and I'm curious to hear your perspective, because we all know Kendall's a dickwad. Like douche fucking canoe, worst kind of human being. So fucking delusional, toxic masculinity, I like despise.
Every part.
Another toxic masculine moment that Alex barely noticed. And I was like, this is the issue. And I was screaming, bringing big Aries energy to Aries season. Just want everyone to know.
Oh, yeah. I did it
Tom.
again. Wait, no, time out.
What?
It is Lo's birthday today.
Oh, yeah. She keeps forgetting.
I do keep forgetting.
And like expecting me to be like upset about it. Be like, Jamie, you're not talking about my birthday.
Listen, this morning we were talking about the podcast and like whatever else. And one of our friends had texted me last night and was like, when's Lo's birthday? And I was like, tomorrow.
Confident. Tomorrow.
I knew, obviously. And I'm texting her all morning. And then in our group chat, someone's like, happy birthday. And I'm like, oh my God.
So Jamie FaceTimes me and she's like, I'm such an idiot. And I'm like, oh, what'd you do? Because I'm just not, like, to me, birthday, like, I'm living my normal life. Everyone's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm literally doing schoolwork and I'm recording a podcast. And, like, I'm probably going to stop doing things when I'm done recording the podcast and read a book. Like, that's about maybe watch some TV. Like,
and you're going to eat some gluten-free birthday cake truffles.
Yeah, I got my blood drawn this morning so that my doctors don't know that I broke my dietary restrictions. And
had we known that you didn't get yourself a fucking cake, that's what would have been sent. But we got you the truffles.
I'm actually thrilled about the truffles because I'm slightly afraid of the
cake is outrageous.
I haven't had fucking dairy in over a year.
There's no vegan option.
No vegan. So I'm like, I'm a little worried about the dairy element. So the truffle's a perfect like taster. And then if it goes well, I can just fucking order myself. I don't care. It's Aries season. As I just mentioned, I'm bringing big fucking Aries energy. I have never
big hoops, big energy.
I have never felt more Aries than I have in this birthday. I was texting a fellow Aries of mine. And I was like,
I know you tag her in every Aries post.
I was screaming at Alex the other night. I'm not a yeller, but I was like, I wasn't screaming, but I was raising my voice for me. And I was like, fuck it. If you don't appreciate me, your loss. And I literally, I was like, sucks for you because I'm not going to get upset about this anymore. And like, when I'm not emoting about something that like, you're fucked.
That is me also.
That you're fucked. So, and I literally, Alex was like, now he's being so nice to me also because it's my birthday. But I think that like, he was like, whoa, okay. Like she's real pissed. Like, I was like, maybe I should bring my big Aries energy more to this all relationship because like I have it all the time, but I just like don't always verbalize. Anyway, yeah. So my big Aries energy today, or whenever I watched Temptation Island, thank you, Tom, who I like to fondly refer to as Tom Cruise because I think he creeps me out. Tom, okay, I'm sorry. Why are you crying in the confessional about your girlfriend like hugging someone when you have been rubbing salt scrub on someone's ass and slapping it and like getting kisses on the cheek and
on like, every part of his face except his mouth.
So I'm sorry that you feel betrayed. And in his words, I didn't think I had to worry about my girlfriend cheating on me. So you're fine with you doing that. But the second it's happening to you and your girlfriend's doing that, it's a big fuck. I cannot. I was so, and then he was like crying and I was like,
okay, go to fucking hell.
Right. Like you're literally slapping someone. I guess slapping someone's ass and like the physical thing can be like less emotional. I don't know, whatever. Maybe there is like an emotional element to like what he saw that like was triggering. But
he was like, oh, like I'm excited about this. He said that. And I was like, get a fucking grip.
I just could not with like how I'm so angry.
He wrote his name in salt scrub on her butt cheek. Like, oh, okay.
Like, and like is getting like basically they're like this close to making out, which I guess she was too. But this is the first time she's been like that with that other guy, Chelsea. The first time she's been like that with Blake, and he has been like with this Sophie girl the whole time.
Right.
Carrying her through the fields. Like
she was like, no matter what happens, I'm coming to visit you. I'm always going to be in your life. You've known him for 14 hours. Like, I cannot. So like basically the only people I like, I'm super thrilled for Corey. I love his journey. I love his journey.
I like his journey. He looks happier. Doesn't he?
He is definitely happier.
I feel like he's on a personal journey where like he's realizing his worth. And he also was like scoffing at Kendall for being a dickwad.
Right.
So I tend to think he's like a nicer human being. And I think his girlfriend, Erin, is very trouble. Like, she's got some shit.
Yeah. Well, now she's like, I didn't know, like, I didn't realize
Right,
what
which
she's
is
like,
cute, which is like, I'm like not, I don't know. I don't hate her
yeah, I
for
didn't realize what I had, and I might have made a
Yeah.
mistake coming here, which,
Right.
like, that's a nice realization, but, like, now he's also realizing some things and may not want to be with you after this, and you're just gonna have to
I know,
accept
and
that.
I don't know where his mind is going to go on that.
No. So I think, and I know you think Julian and Kristen are gonna end up together.
I don't know that actually anymore. That's not my
No?
prediction. I think I like, I mean, they clearly have a history.
Right, like,
I
11
think,
years is a fuck ton of time.
and when he was crying in the interview and he was like, I promised her brother that I would take care of her and I'm doing the best I can. I think that if she tells him she's done, he's going to be like so respectful, but like they're still going to be in each other's lives. I think he's always going to ride or die for her until she says no.
Right, I think that's right.
Yeah.
It will be her that says no, if
Yes,
anything.
right.
And the only way they get back together is if he continues to not cheat on her.
Right.
Obviously.
Right. Which, like, is so fucked that he cheated on her. Like, but
Twice.
Right. I mean, I'm not defending him in any regard with regards to that, but I just think they have such a history and they clearly have worked through so much that, like, however it took him to get to this place of like caring for her in the way he's caring for her, like, I just appreciate that for what it is. And I just think that I hope she understands that she has the ability to just kind of be like, yes, no, this isn't working.
Well, the other crazy thing is I didn't realize how old they were. Like, they started dating in high school. They started dating when they were 15 years old.
Right.
Like, so they're not even that old right now. They're 26. Like,
No.
They've dated nobody else.
Right. They're at this point, like, their family. It's like, honestly, I know you're not a Kardashians person, but it reminds me of Scott Disick and Kourtney Kardashian, where
like,
it's
he's
like,
always going to be around.
He's always going to be there. Yeah. And that's kind of how I see it. And I just think that they've been through so much together. And he was very genuine in his, like, I'm trying to just take care of her the best way I know possible and, like, make her, like, I'm doing that for her brother. Like, that just, like, oh, yeah. And then him just being a dick to Kendall also made me happy because I fucking hate Kendall.
Because Kendall's such a fucking idiot. I do not think that Erica and Kendall leave together. I think he is delusional that he thinks Erica might come back with him. And I don't think Chelsea and Tom will leave together either.
No, I don't think so either. I'm unsure about Aaron, and I actually think that Corey will be the one in the Aaron relationship that decides.
Right, for sure. She is, like, beside herself at this point.
I do love these, which you're new to Temptation. Well, not new anymore because you've watched other seasons, but the where you can leave a message or decide not to leave a message, like a voice. So I am just, like, dying for Erica just to not leave a message with Kendall. I hope she doesn't.
And also, like, but he might not even care if she doesn't leave a message.
Yeah, but like, didn't you get a little more emotion from him this most recent episode where, like, I thought maybe he does kind of care that she moves on in a misogynistic way, like, he wants what he can't have type of way. But, like, I did, maybe. And he was saying he wanted to like, he wanted to, like, be with, I don't fucking know.
Right. What I found, which I actually liked more, in the first season when they come to the bonfire, it's, do you want to watch with everybody or do you want to watch with headphones?
Yeah.
I'm glad that they're not doing that anymore because I said to Ben, I was like, what's the fucking point? Like,
well, it's a privacy thing. I think they, like, had to learn that, like, the girls were, like, in it and the guy, like, they were for each other.
It only happened one time, and it was when, I don't remember her name, but that chick's boyfriend cheated on her. Yeah. And, like, that, she was like, I know that's what's coming. And, like, I don't want to watch it, and I'm just going to put the headphones in and listen and hand it back to you. Yeah. But that's the only time it happened in the entire show.
Yeah, I know.
So, yeah. I think that Chelsea and Tom will be done, and I think that Erica and Kendall are fucking done.
And I think Kendall leaves. Another friend was talking with me about this, and she was like, oh, I don't know if Kendall will send a message or leave a video. I was like, oh, I think
you think he will?
I think he will. Because I think he thinks he's done nothing. Like, I think he's
you think it's just gonna be like, hi, baby, love you.
Yeah, like, I'm going on this journey, and, like, I feel like you're,
well, he kept saying in his thing, he's like, we came here with no rules, so I'm single.
Right.
He keeps saying that. Right. Like, fuck off.
Yes. So, but I think he says that, but I think he actually cares a little bit, but in a fucked up way. Like, I think he cares because he just wants control over someone. So, anyway, I just desperately hope Erica's like, okay, bye. But that Jesse guy is like the last person I expected her to like.
Same. I have I don't give a fuck if that ever happens. But
No,
I would rather she
want
just
her.
leaves and like lives her best life.
Same. Me too. That's all I want for her. 100%.
Yeah. So yeah, FYI, this is now a Temptation Island podcast, so get on it, everybody. This is record length for us in recording time. Like obviously we took a couple breaks, but like still
that's just like
record recording time.
We keep setting new records. We have to stop adding fucking segments. We basically just keep adding shit.
Right. We don't ever shut the fuck up, and thanks for hanging in there.
Thanks.
Like I never thought in a million years our podcast episodes would be so long. I listen to a podcast that has like pretty long episodes and I love it. Like I just put it on and like walk around and do shit. But I was like, oh, like I can't believe they talk for that long. How do they talk for that long? That's all we're doing. That's all we're fucking doing.
Shocker that we can speak.
Guys, that's it. I say that's it, but it was so fucking much. Red Pill is our April book, and you get another 2 weeks to read Deacon King Kong.
You're welcome.
Because we'll be talking about it on the next episode. Sorry, we're not that sorry about it. And yeah,
email
until
us.
next. Oh, please email us.
We really enjoy it, and I hope you always see that it was kind of fun to talk about someone else's try saying that out loud moment.
Right. It just like gives you, and like we happen to both have somewhat of an experience with this, but like that's not always going to be the case. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see like what other people are experiencing and being able to talk about it.
Yeah, we love it.
Please
we love that. We love that.
All right. So until next time.
Try saying that out loud. Bye.
Bye.